Welcome back to another crafty session with me. My name's Amanda and I am the artist behind the camera. For this session, we're using the May Mini Print Club creative kit that's included in the subscription. You can check more out in the shop. It is shopjournalpoint.com if you're interested in learning more about that. And basically it comes with a little color and cut page with some ephemera pieces, and then you also get typically it's a solid color background, a 4x4 background with a little watercolor paper as well that you'll see me using here in a minute. So I'm going to take some time real quick to get these pieces cut out, and then we'll get started with all the rest of the fun stuff. So now that we have all our pieces cut out, I like to just start off with attempting to layer all my pieces. Sometimes I'll bring in a smaller piece of scrapbook paper to add like a frame around the watercolor paper. That's what you see here. It's a pink design. And so that just comes from my stash. You can choose to do something like that, or you can just leave it as is if you don't have anything on hand. I bring in some other pieces of scrap paper that I have. That's the blue turquoise that you see at the top, just in case I want to add something different that's not included in the kit. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to try and stick to the kit as much as possible. So here you see me just rearranging pieces. Sometimes I use them all, sometimes I don't. I'm just kind of laying them around and seeing what my eye is attracted to before I do anything with glue. So you'll see me adding multiple layers, which I love. I think having layers adds a lot of interest to the piece. I also, at the same time, am thinking about, am I going to add some watercolor to the white piece of paper so that I can add some more interest to the overall piece? For this one, I am really liking this little faux washi tape, if you will, this strip of florals. So I think I'm going to stick more with the florals for this piece, and I will save my little butterfly for another artwork later on. I always refer back to the little journal devotional that comes with the subscription for some messages of inspiration that I want to use on my artwork. I typically choose something that is meaningful to me in what I'm going through right now, and it's something that I know that my heart will need to see time and time again as the weeks progress. So I'm thinking through that as well when I am planning out my piece. As for now, I have a message in mind, and now I'm going to just work on adding some watercolor to the white piece of paper that comes with it. It is a watercolor sheet, so it can handle some wet media, which I love. I am thinking, because I have a lot of, it's pink and yellow, I'm going to go along with the flower ephemera piece that I have already on top, or planned to be on top, and I'm going to go with some purple, different values of purple, different shades of purple. So it's just going to be a light wash. I don't want it to overtake the ephemera pieces, but I also need to leave space for my message as well. And I may even add some metallic watercolor to it just to give it a little shimmer, because I'm all about that with my artwork. So I'm going to give it a couple of minutes to just play through, and we'll kind of go from there. One of the techniques that I like to do with watercolor, especially when I'm doing just a wash, is to put plenty of water on the paper itself, and then I will dab in different pigments, a heavy amount of the paint onto the paper, and then let it just kind of dissolve into where the water is. So it spreads out beautifully. You don't have a lot of control when it comes to this approach, but I love the fluidity of it, and it can have some really cool results if you give it some time and you have some patience with it. So while we wait for the watercolor to dry, I like to sometimes pre-practice what it is that I'm going to write. So I pulled out my stack of just throwaway paper, really some scrap paper that I can practice on a couple times, maybe rearrange the layout, but it just gives me that confidence when it comes down to writing on top of the watercolor paper that I know what I'm doing and I can be okay with the results. Another thing that I like to do while I wait for the watercolor paper to dry is to start gluing down any pieces that are below the watercolor page, just to kind of get ahead on things. And depending on the thickness of the paper is where I will choose to either use glue stick or liquid glue. So you'll kind of see me using both throughout the video, but this the pink designed paper is a very thin scrapbook paper, so it doesn't need a whole lot of liquid glue, and the liquid glue might actually make it warp a little bit more. So I'm just using glue stick for this one. But for the ephemera pieces, it is a thicker paper, and especially the watercolor paper, so I will be using either a combination or the liquid glue for those. And these two little pieces, even though they're going on top of the watercolor paper, I'm going to attach them both together just for now, since I'm waiting on the watercolor to dry still. So it's sort of dry at the moment. I am going to place everything down, see how I like it, make any adjustments if needed. I'm wanting there to be a little bit more color showing through. It's very faint. It's sometimes when the watercolor dries, it dries a lot lighter than what you think it will. So I'm just going back in and I'm adding more touches of the metallic paint to really bring that out. And then I decided to add a little bit of metallic purple as well. And it gives just an extra dimension, especially behind that ephemera piece that I'm going to put on top. And then allows for the eye to drift off to the right hand side, which is where I will place my message. Sometimes what I will do, usually I wing it, but sometimes I'll trace out the watercolor paper and then you get a better idea of the spacing and how you need to write your letters. So there's the tracing right there, and I am gonna redo my spacing just a tad. I think it might work out better this way. Once I am able to place the ephemera down, it'll all make a little bit more sense. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick and practice before I actually get to writing my message on my watercolor paper. So now that I've practiced my message, and because I added more watercolor, I need for it to dry again. So as I'm waiting for that, I just pulled out the cut and color, or the color and cut page that was also included in the ephemera page with the other stuff. And I'm just going to take some time and paint that in, because I got to wait for the other piece to dry anyways before I can write my message, or it'll just kind of all bleed. So one reason why I added this little coloring page, if you will, is for a couple reasons. One, it's just a nice little meditative practice, if you will. It's great to escape all the craziness of the world today. So we can do that by coloring, and it's fun and enjoyable, and it goes with the theme. You can also use this instead of that 3x3 watercolor paper and have this be the main focal point of your mini artwork if you wanted. So there's tons of options here for you. Right now I'm just kind of wasting some time, if you will, or spending some time is better. Spending some time as I wait for the watercolor paper to dry so that I can write my message and complete my mini artwork. So now that that's done and the watercolor paper is dry for the most part, I brought my message back out and I'm going to go ahead and just get started. I use a paint pen because that's what I've found to show up as a super solid black pigment. So I'm just testing out my paint pen to make sure that it is writing smoothly and that a lot of ink is not going to spill out. That's happened to me before. So I'm just testing it on my scrap paper. And then we're gonna go for it. One thing I like to do is before I glue anything down, I'm just gently placing the ephemera down where I know it's going to go so that I don't end up writing underneath where the ephemera is going to be. So it just gives me a visual of the amount of space that I do have available for my message. And then we just go for it. Take a deep breath and go. There's no wrong here. It really is just trial and error, a lot of practice, and it's for your own pleasure. So don't be too hard on yourself. Give it a shot. Now, once the message is complete, you are all ready to start gluing everything together. Like I mentioned before, because it is watercolor paper, it's a lot thicker than the other scrapbook paper from like the pink design page. So I'm using both glue stick in the center and then some liquid glue on the top and the bottom just to make sure that it's secure and it doesn't try to like flip up or, separate. So you see me using both types of glue for that one. And then as I get to the ephemera, I will most likely just use liquid glue. They're smaller pieces, but it's thicker paper, so I just want to make sure that those are nice and secure as well. And really, those are the last steps of your mini artwork. You are more than welcome to add to it once you're done. I would just have some caution of adding more watercolor because it will re-wet the paper, and then the paper needs time to dry, and when it dries from being wet, it could have some warping. So just keep that in mind. I typically place these under a heavy weight or a book, at least for a couple hours, just to make sure it dries nice and flat, and then they are ready to be displayed. Lastly, you can't forget to trim off any excess that you might see around the edges. And there you go. You have a mini artwork that goes with the theme for the month. Here I pulled out my box frame to swap out the old piece with the new one, and it's all ready to be displayed. I hope you enjoyed this crafting experience, and we'll see you again next month.